guys, how's it going? Eli here, back with another video where today we're going to be having a conversation about the best strategies to take when you've missed the boat on selling your Pokemon product. Now, before we jump right into it, as always, if you want to enter into our weekly giveaways, make sure you leave a like, comment down below, subscribe. We post pre-recorded content for you to do so each and every week. Of course, since you can comment and like on each video each and every week, that allows you for multiple entries and 3 winners each and every week, as well as multiple opportunities to win. Outside of that, if you want to support the channel, we have a bunch of links down in the description below, including our Patreon, to check out some of the awesome tools we have for those interested in accessing wholesale product and investing in Pokemon cards and product tools. If you want to join, of course, our Discord to take advantage of a lot of the deals links that we have going on, that we help allow individuals find access to products that are at the best deals on the internet right now. Or if you want to just support the overall channel, you can check out our LGS's website, E4 Cards and More, to buy our single selection, or our website, PokemartUSA, to buy our specialty mystery Pokemon product. Now, jumping into today's video, I've had, of course, a couple of requests in regards to, let's just start some, of course, mini-series, Eli, because with what's going on right now in the market, it's been kind of slow. There's not really much to talk about, nothing really exciting in terms of reprints. So one of the biggest questions I've had is, what do you do when you've missed the boat on the opportunity to sell, right? Let's say that you're a new follower and you decided that before you watch the channel, or maybe let's say you are a follower and you just so happen to have seen this video and you just decided to buy Evolving Skies at $240, $260, and you're saying to yourself, I think that the price is going to keep going up. It's going to go up to 300, going to go up to 350, 400, whatever your approach is. And then a reprint happens and the price drops all the way down to 100, 120, 240 is no longer a good entry point. Now it's all of a sudden a terrible entry point because you're down 50%. What are the approaches you can take to kind of get out of that? So I'm going to be developing a mini series that's going to, of course, encompass a lot of the general just trading strategies that you can take when it comes to when you're up, when you're down, and just everything in between. And so for today's video, it's going to be talking about when you're down, what do you do? Or what do you do to prevent this in the future, right? So the first thing we're going to kind of break down, and I'm going to try and make this, a 20-minute video at most, because I want to make this a multi-part series. So we're going to just quickly go through it so that there's consistent content to talk about. But starting off, first things first, before anything, of course, please be aware that this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. And now jumping into what I'm now going to tell you guys, prolonged, the starting thing you should always consider is entry point, exit point, and reprint point, right? Now, this is a tool for, of course, those at this point who have already, who haven't already made the financial mistake of selling before the reprints, but this is just, of course, letting you know ahead of time, like, hey, this is what you should do appropriately next time, learn from your mistake, right? Know what a good entry point is, know what a good exit point is, as well as learning to not leave profits on the table. So like, for example, right, you never have to buy at a lot of the price points that I always recommend to people, right? When it comes to like the ultra premium collection, obviously I can sit here and I can say to you guys, hey, I think that it'd be a really good price if it drops down to 160 back when it was at $300. And obviously, if you watched my channel, I continuously made adjustments to when I was going to buy. And for that reason, if you would continue to follow that, then you would have known, obviously, that I made at least 3 adjustments to times of buying. At first, it was 160, then it became 120, and then it became anything at the current market price. And so, and by market price, I mean like 90, 100, 110 bucks. And so when it comes to the information that I provide for you, obviously there's multiple different approaches on how you can take it on your overall entry point. But most importantly, the thing to consider ultimately is understanding that patience is always key. And just because it hits that target point, depending upon how quickly it approaches it, you have to be wary of, hey, it just hit 160 and it hit it really quick. Is this the end? Because I'm not saying all of a sudden, of course, once it hits 160, jump right in. But what I am saying is if it hits 160 and you wait 2 weeks and it's kind of sitting at around 160-ish as a price point, or it's been sitting for 3 weeks and you start to see the price go up, then you can talk about that. But if it's 160 already and the price itself hasn't even come out yet, and we know that the product is going to crash because there's going to be more sellers, then wait on that 160 price point, because the expectation and the reason why I make the price adjustments is because more or less I'm expecting that price to hit when it drops. And when you have a second reprint coming on top of that too, then the price adjustments are going to be made. So, with all that being said, patience is a huge virtue, right? Knowing that, of course, that when it comes to your entry points, you're being very smart when you're hearing these numbers, and of course making your own rational conclusions when it comes down to it, because you have to make sure you're not going to FOMO into a position thinking it's really good. So that's kind of one of the first pieces of advice I would just generally say, for those of you guys that have obviously made this mistake, learning from it and just future tense, how we can prevent that from happening again, right? So that's an extremely important thing. Now, let's say, of course, you buy into 120 because, rationally speaking, you believe that the product itself is going to, either it's going to stop here or it's going to keep going down, and you can just do what's called dollar cost averaging, which is basically where you bought in at 120, but then it goes down to 190, and then you buy in some more. Well, let's say you bought 50% of your current product you own at 120, and the other 50% you bought at $90. Roughly, it's going to be around 100 and I want to say $5-ish is now what your average price is. So your dollar cost averaging down as the price corrects, so that when you go on the way up, you're able to protect your preserved losses that you had on the way down if you were off. And so for those people that, of course, got in at that 120 price point, I'm not saying, of course, that means all of a sudden double down. But what I am saying is if it is an item that realistically we know in the long term is going to perform really well, then jumping out of a position out of fear, and it should not be the approach you're taking. You should never make a decision on an investment based out of emotion. It should be based off of a rational decision that you made analytically when deciding, hey, this is a product that I think long-term could do really well. And obviously we're talking about this from the investment perspective. If you're a collector, then this is completely irrelevant to you because, for you, you're going to open it one way or another. So you just take the waiting and patience approach. You're not dollar cost averaging as you're continuing to buy and open, right? So for you, it's just patience. But I digress with that. So when it comes down to, finding that entry point, dollar cost averaging, being patient, these are all some of the things that we really talk about on the channel. But for those of you who have, of course, been around the channel, you should know a lot of these things already. So now we get into the part of where, hey, this is something that I haven't talked about. Everyone's going to learn from this, more than just those that are new to the channel or in this financial, predicament, we'll say. Going back to the original example, what do you do when you buy Evolving Skies at 240, price goes up to 300, and then it corrects, right? What is your kind of options that you have? Right? You can sit here and you can say you can dollar cost average, which you totally can, right? That's one of your options. Let's say that 50% was bought at 240, another 50% was bought at 120, just to make it kind of simple. You're going to get the median of that at 160. Evolving Skies, if we're being realistic, 160 is a price point. It could easily hit again if it were to go down to 120. It would do it real quick, right? And maybe my number's a little bit off. I can do quick calculations just so we can try and see and make sure that I'm doing everything correctly. But to my knowledge, okay, 180 is what it looks like. So at 180 is still realistic as well, considering the current price point that it's at right now. But that still puts you in a huge waiting game, right? And that's one of your options at this point for making that mistake. It is the waiting game. That is the option that you ultimately have is, hey man, I made this really poor financial decision. I hopped in the boat and I shouldn't have done that. How do I suppress my losses, right? That's one of your options. Now, let's say Eli, I don't have another 50% equity, right? Let's say you put in a K and then you're saying I don't have another K to balance that out at the 50% middle line, right? What do I do next, right? Well, your next approach obviously is therefore you have a couple of options. You can either, one, completely hop out of your position and try and regroup, accept your losses, and hope to, of course, hop into other positions. But for this specific example, right, that is one that I do not agree with the decision making for that. And now we can use alternate examples, right? Let's say Darkness Ablaze Elite Trainer boxes. Darkness Ablaze Elite Trainer boxes at one point were selling for $140. If you bought in at, let's say, $100, right, $90, price is now down to $30. Obviously, you're saying to yourself, okay, well, if I invest it, and we'll make it even instead, just to make it easy. Let's say you got in at $100 and you spent $1,000, you own 10 altogether, right? That's what you're saying now. If the price crashed all the way down to 30 because you weren't able to sell before the reprint because you weren't paying attention to what's going on in the market, then obviously that puts you at roughly around $300. If you're in a position where dollar cost averaging for you is not realistic, and obviously this is a product that we know was super expensive because of fabricated scarcity, the other approach is rediversifying your product in other items that could potentially explode and recoup your losses, right? One of those being Evolving Skies. So, and that's why I didn't want to use this direct example with Evolving Skies, because it wouldn't make sense, right? If you're taking the approach for something like Evolving Skies, then dollar cost averaging is going to be your best approach, even if you got in at too high of a point. And if you don't have the money, then obviously you're going to have to suck it up and play the waiting game. But if for an item like Darkness Ablaze ETBs, for example, where the item itself will more than likely do well long term, but 140 was very much an overinflated price, you're going to have a lot better luck moving to an item that is on the up and up and just had a reprint, or maybe it's not on the up and up and up, but it just had a reprint, it crashed, and you're expecting it to potentially pop off relatively soon because of the price volatility prior. Evolving Skies is one of those items. Obviously, it's an item right now which you're saying to yourself is more than likely gonna get a reprint at some point. We don't know what that price entry point is, right? Let's say it's 150 is the new low, and you buy 2 booster boxes of that, and then you obviously have to, take the loss at that because you incurred massive losses by, 66% roughly. And if you're saying, okay, well, it's at 150 for 2 is how many you own, right? And let's say hypothetically the all-time high by end of year becomes $300, and it hits that $300 price point. You obviously doubled your money that you're currently sitting at, but obviously you're still $400 in the hole, and so you're going to have to continuously either wait for Evolving Skies to go up, or you're going to then pull your profits off the table and then do the exact same thing you did with Evolving Skies for other products. Let's say like Crown Zenith, for example. There's an argument to be made it's a little bit more speculative on how it's going to perform in terms of the long-term investability, but from what the sentiment we've been getting most recently, the hype is extremely high for this set as being one of the best sets in the Sword and Shield era, if not one of the best sets of all time that they've ever made. And that might sound hyperbolic, but I'm not the only person that's been saying that. The hysteria has been crazy for Crown Zenith right now, and so you can always take the general approach of, hey, I cut my losses at Evolving Skies, or let's say that, I cut my losses at Darkness Ablaze, and for me, I need to rediversify in something that I feel like has potential to pop off, and based off of the market sentiment, I think that it's a really good opportunity to get in at $40 because let's say in the next, 6 months, the price goes up to $100+ a Elite Trainer box, and your market price right now able to pick them up for $40 plus $45. I mean, that's more than a 2x return. So it's constantly taking that money that you lost and saying to yourself, all right, what is the position I'm in? One, did I lose the money because the item got a reprint and prices came back to reality, and I need to readjust my strategy by going into an item that has a possibility of being more volatile and a lot better of a chance because it's at a really good market time to buy? Or are you saying to yourself, hey, this is a product that is extremely high demand, but it just obviously got a reprint, and supply, of course, is going to help the general price volume go down, and my best decision to make right now is either be patient, wait for it to re-hit its price up, or it's going to be doubling down and, of course, dollar cost averaging in, right? And now I want to make this very, very clear too. When it comes to these alternative items to reinvest in, we want to make sure that we don't end up making the exact same mistake that put us in the hole to begin with, right? Like hypothetically speaking, right? Let's say that Crown Zenith has come out and you're listening to this video by the time Crown Zenith comes out and the Elite Trainer Box prices hit $70. And you're like, oh, well, what if it goes to 100? Because like Eli was saying, this could be one of the best sets of all time, right? If it goes to $70 after, let's say you start off in the Darkness Ablaze situation, right? You start off with 1,000, you go down to 300, you see the price of, boxes are, we'll say make it even, $75 for, Elite Trainer boxes of Crown Zenith. You go buy, you take your money, you buy 4, the price goes up to $100, and then there's reprint news. At that point, you have 2 options here. You either sell and you don't hit that recoup amount that you wanted because you're saying to yourself, well, I'm not going to sell until I at least make my money back, or at least make double my money back. Or you hold, and then that initial 300 that turned into like 450, right? Or 300 turn into 350. And you hold and watch the price crash down to $40, and now you're sitting on $150, $190, $200. Don't make the same mistake. And that's the next point that we're going to be talking about. This is when it comes to both how to get yourself not in this situation to begin with, but also what to do when you're trying to recoup your losses. Learn to take profits on the table. And one of the things a lot of people don't realize is that the amount of times, and this is also from personal experience, guys, the amount of times that I have gotten into really good positions, and then when it's time to sell, I don't. And then the price is correct, and the price is correct, and the price is correct, and the price is correct. And I keep saying to myself, and this isn't for Pokemon, this is for general market trading I do outside of this. But there's been times where I've made that deer in the headlight emotional decision where I get in a really good position. I'm up 10x on my overall return. I can cash out now, and I end up leaving money on the table. And then I end up losing a large portion of it, and it's a boneheaded mistake. And no one's perfect. Obviously, we're all human in nature, and so it's a rewiring and learning how to be disciplined. But it's one that you're going to need to learn to overcome. And I hear a lot of the times people ask me, Eli, I got in at Evolving Skies at 180. I got in at $200. Right now, it's at 280. Should I pull profit? Right? Now, obviously, your entry point is always going to change the answer, because if you bought it at $100, 105, then your margins for profit are so much greater, because once you consider fees and expenses, you're going to be a lot better. But if you're at 200 to 220, then obviously it's a lot tighter and you're not making as much, right? And so you have to look at it from twofold. Either one, you say, I'm going to wait because you're in the know, you're one of those insiders, and you know that once I post a video about it, because usually I'm one of the first people to discuss it, or another PokeTuber, let's say they get ahead of it, you hear there's reprints coming, you get confirmation of it, and you sell right then and there. That's what you have to do. You can't sit and wait on it because you think, oh, we don't know what the size of the reprint is. Doesn't matter. We saw the small reprint that happened with Evolving Skies. Prices went from $200 all the way down to $120. And that was with a tiny reprint. Now, not everyone was able to buy in at $120 because obviously it's, was bought out pretty quick. But for the most part, it still was able to go down to $130, $135 on average. People were able to pick that up a lot more conservatively. And that's something that happened off of a tiny reprint. So being, greedy by not taking profit, I should say, at that regard, is definitely not the play when you hear about a reprint, no matter what position you're in, right? However, let's say there's no news of a position or for a reprint, then at that point, it's very much, hey, if I'm at a small margin of $200, what I got in at, it's now 300, 15% general fees, then shipment. My margins are good, but I know that the reprint news hasn't happened and the volatility of this item itself has been continuing to go up and the value just hasn't stopped. I don't see it stopping unless we get a reprint because the scarcity of this product keeps going up. Then you can play that game, but it's a calculated game that you're playing, right? Versus, of course, if you're saying to yourself that you got in at $100, you don't have to play that game as much. And if you spend $1,000 having 10 booster boxes at $100, you can take, 3 of those booster boxes off the market, pull profit, and if it retraces all the way down and you break even, that's okay. You at least walked away with an additional $600 that you made off the table, right? And that way you can feel comfortable knowing that, hey, if the price goes up because I'm wrong, at least the other 7 booster boxes are making me money. And if you're right, hey, at least I didn't leave all the money on the table. And so being very smart with that and not being greedy and putting yourself in those positions to begin with because you decided to let your greed and emotions get the best of you is extremely important to recognize when it comes to trading in this market. And so when it comes to kind of the key takeaways, because like I said, I wanted to keep it around 20 minutes, so I'm going to try and wrap this up. The key takeaways I really want you guys to understand is, one, when it comes to entering into your positions, make sure that when you have key target points, watch where the volatility of the momentum's going. If it sits at that price for a couple of weeks and then you see a readjustment, then yeah, you can talk about getting in an entry point. But if you see it quickly approaching that target entry point for you, be patient, don't FOMO in, because more than likely there's a possibility it's going to keep going down. 2, if you are in a position where you missed the boat, there was a reprint, you've got to look and assess, hey, the item itself that got reprinted, is it a high demand item that we know is going to go back up? And it's going to potentially, of course, have that volatility resume once the supply has started to diminish again? Then obviously you either dollar cost average in, or if you don't have the liquidity to do that, then you just have to write it out. But otherwise, if it's a product like, for the example I gave with Darkness ETBs, where they were overvalued items, then you have to take your losses and you readjust and find other opportunities in the market to then make money off of hoping that you can find those opportunities and expect the volatility to, of course, be dialed in on those items. And then, of course, making sure as well that we make sure that our entry points, like we discussed at the very beginning of the video, are also good entry points, and we're not going to end up, of course, repeating the same mistake that we did to begin with. And lastly, whether you're in a winning position or you're trying to recoup from a winning position or from a losing position, making sure that we, of course, take profits off the table and make sure that we're not digging ourselves in a deeper hole or leaving profit that could have been made because of our greed and emotions for wanting to try and capitalize off the fact that I could have made more. Those are the most important things for now that I want you guys to have as key takeaways. Obviously, we'll be expanding upon this video quite a bit. This will be a mini series, but these are some of the just very important, points I want you guys to be able to take away. If you do end up finding yourself in a position where you're not able to follow the market, super closely, or you get caught off guard by a reprint happening, or prices just randomly start to correct, being able to have a backup plan, being able to have a system, being very calculated when it comes to the decisions that you're making in this market, and making sure that they're not emotional decisions that just keep you from, continuing to make profit and make good investment decisions. But as far as it goes, As always, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want to enter into our weekly giveaways. Got 3 winners each and every week, and of course, on top of that, multiple opportunities to enter. Outside of that, if you just want to support the channel, whether it be our website, PokemartUSA, to buy any of our specialty product, such as our mystery packs, or if you want to go to E4 Cards and More to support the channel, our local game store, obviously, you can check that out on our website, E4 Cards, to buy our single selection, or if you want to, of course, enhance your opportunity when it comes to being able to access product at wholesale prices, or being able to, of course, be able to access tools to help you with your overall investment making decisions when it comes to Pokemon cards and collecting. Check out our Patreon. And lastly, if you want to just be able to access any of the, of course, special links that we have in our deals channel, or just be a part of the community, check out our Discord. Links for all these items are in the description below. But that is all for today's video. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Until then, I will see you all on Wednesday. Peace.